Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you might be joining us from. My name is Sydney, and I'm here for the Kahoot Ask Us Anything session. So I am a member of the Kahoot team. So happy to be here with you all today for whoever's joining. And really the whole purpose of the session is for you to ask us anything. So if you've ever wanted to ask a member of the Kahoot team a question, feel free to drop your question in the chat next to this live, and I am able to answer it live. My name is Sydney. I've been with Kahoot for almost 2 years now, and I work really exclusively with our Kahoot EDU product, which is purchased by schools and districts in campuses for many educators to have access to all of the features that Kahoot has. So I'm able to answer your questions if you do have any. Again, I do appreciate you for tuning into this live. If you are here, thank you. And I'm happy to take any questions that you have in the chat. Now, while we wait for some questions to come through, I'll just provide a very brief overview of Kahoot. So Kahoot is a learning engagement platform. It started off really serving educators, but now we really serve learners of all ages. But speaking to education specifically, it's a platform where you can host learning games and even create your own learning games with your students. And Kahoot is free for teachers. We have pledged to be free for teachers forever. So there will always be a free version of Kahoot, available for you to sign up and use our platform for free. Now, we do have some features that you do have to kind of upgrade to pay for, but a lot of great features available there as well. But Kahoot is free and available for you to sign up online at kahoot.com. Now, whenever you do have a Kahoot, whether it's one that's created by one of our many educators from all around the world or one that you've created yourself, we have two main ways to play. And I do see people popping in and saying hi in the chat. Thank you so much for being here. Again, if you do have questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. I'm just doing a little brief overview of our two ways to play Kahoot. So our two ways to play Kahoot are to host a Kahoot live. So similar to a YouTube live, I could host a Kahoot. We could all play together at the same time. I'm actively hosting the Kahoot, and the participants are playing it at the same time as well. I do apologize. My cat is trying to join this live session. 1 second. Moving him out of the way. All right, yes. So our main way to play is our live session. Hello again to everyone joining in the chat. Feel free to ask questions. But the live version of Kahoot is typically our more traditional way to play. It's what people know us for. It gets students really excited to compete and see their names on top of that podium. So that happens synchronously, whether you're doing that through video conferencing or you are in class with your students. They're able to play along all at the same time, and you're hosting the Kahoot. Now, our other way to play, which is our little less familiar way to play for a lot of users, is our Kahoot Assignments. So this is our asynchronous way to play, where you create an assignment that generates a link that students are able to click on and play at any point in time for as long as the assignment is open. So if you are not wanting to actively host the Kahoot, or you're wanting to just assign the Kahoot as homework, you can do so with that assign feature. Another great way to use our assign feature is if you have students who are absent from class that day, or maybe they're out for the whole week, then you can send them the Kahoots that you're hosting in class through as an assignment. And so they can still take part in those Kahoots. They're just doing it on their own time and at their own pace. So those are our two main ways to play a Kahoot. And again, thank you so much for being here and joining us with this session. This is a 30-minute session where you are able to ask me questions. So I will be continuously talking if there are no questions that come through, but feel free to ask questions. That's really what we're here for. Otherwise, I'll just be talking about various pieces of the Kahoot platform, but please use the chat, which I am able to see, to ask any questions that you have for a member of the Kahoot team. I see someone is joining us from Egypt. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I am currently in Austin, Texas, so that's where I'm joining from. And Kahoot is actually a Norwegian company. So we are headquartered over in Oslo, Norway. So we are quite global and we love our global community. And that is one of my favorite things about Kahoot. And for those joining as well, my name is Sydney. I am a member of the Kahoot team on the customer success team. I work mostly with our Kahoot EDU product that is typically purchased by schools and districts and campuses to bring many educators under one subscription. So rather than upgrading yourself, your school or whoever you're working for is able to support you in your use of Kahoot and getting access to all of those features. And I've been at Kahoot for nearly 2 years now. Come September will be my second year here at Kahoot. So, without kind of, as you're still thinking about maybe questions that you do have for a member of the Kahoot team, again, that's what we're here for. So, feel free to ask questions. I'll go ahead and shout out this week's feature focus. So, the feature focus for this week is our poll question type. So, in the past, I know teachers have done this. There is a way to use our quiz question type to, with no points associated to it, and kind of use it as a poll question. Well, we made it a lot easier for educators and users of Kahoot to actually just create a poll question. So rather than manipulating our quiz question to be like a poll, there is a poll question type within some of our plans. And there is more information being popped into the chat as well. And with polling, there is no correct answer. So it is there strictly for you to be able to gather feedback from your participants. And you even, depending on what plan you have, you're also able to decide whether that is a single select poll. So what is one pizza topping, or which of these is your favorite pizza topping? And students only select one. Or you could say, which pizza toppings do you love? And you could actually make a multi-select poll. So you have that option between single select and multi-select. And poll is such an amazing question type because another great feature within it is you're able to use our image library and image libraries, and then also our Giphy integration to have either images as the actual poll options, or you can also have GIFs as well. So one really great way to use poll is to simply ask students how they're feeling that day, and then to have a couple of fun and funny and engaging GIFs that kind of relate to how they might be feeling, whether that's tired, excited, all those different emotions that students might be feeling on a regular basis. And they can select that one. Or how do they feel about an upcoming test? Or how are they feeling on a particular subject or piece of content? So you can then be informed on how to better serve them moving forward in your instruction. So the link to learn more about our poll question type was placed in the chat, and that also just links to our back to school page with so many great resources on features that we've released and just general tips and tricks for using Kahoot to the best of your ability during this back to school season. And if you do want to tune in again on Thursdays, there's actually an opportunity to play a Kahoot during these YouTube lives rather than this one where I'm just pretty much talking majority of the time. So if you actually want to play a Kahoot with the Kahoot team, that happens on Thursdays, and this week's Kahoot will be all about polls. And yes, hello to everyone joining in the chat. We do appreciate it. Appreciate you for being here. Again, this is an Ask Us Anything session, so feel free to ask us anything in the chat. I am more than happy to answer your questions about Kahoot, within reason, depending on the question, but happy to answer any question you might have about Kahoot and the Kahoot platform during these next, I guess, about 20 minutes. We have about 20 minutes left. So feel free to ask your questions in the chat. It would also be great to know, where is everyone joining us from? I know someone said that they are joining us from Egypt. So feel free to put the country that you're joining us from. That would be interesting for us to know. Oh, awesome. So it looks like our expert on polls, um, the lovely Monica, has actually joined this live chat and tuned in. So feel free to also look at that. Awesome. Yes, representing Poland. Amazing. We actually have some Cahooters or Kahoot employees over in Poland. We also have folks joining from Tunisia. That's amazing. I know last week, I believe one of the users actually here with us again today in the top chat asked us, or asked me, I should say, what one of my favorite things about Kahoot is. And working at Kahoot, one of my favorite things is just we are a very global company and we serve a very global audience. So I love tuning into our events. I always am in the chat on the EDU meetups and the EDU summit and supporting you all from all over the world and just making the most out of Kahoot. That is one thing that I really, really do love about Kahoot. Now, that's kind of the general, my favorite thing about Kahoot, but my favorite feature is actually our new team mode. So we have a new version of team mode where it's with the live version. So it's a way to play in our live Cahoots. So rather than students competing individually, they actually get to compete as a team, and every student is still answering every question in the Kahoot. So we did for a very long time have a version of team mode that was team mode on shared devices. So a group of students kind of sitting around one device, whether that's a computer, a phone, or an iPad, and they're playing together kind of as one player or as one team. So we released a new version of team mode, which is team mode on personal devices. And this is available for free. Even in the free Kahoot accounts, you can play in this version of team mode. And students are randomly assigned to a team. It's typically 3 teams, and their scores averages towards a team score. So rather than competing through the Kahoot individually, they actually get to compete as a team. So if you find that Kahoot tends to favor those who are very quick to process, which is a factor of Kahoot is that speed. You can play in our team mode to allow every student to kind of, feel successful. That's super important that students do feel successful in their learning. So that's one tool that anyone with a Kahoot account can use is that team mode on personal devices. And the extra cherry on top when it comes to team mode on personal devices is that if you are reviewing our Kahoot reports, which I hope you all are, if you are using Kahoot, then the report of a Kahoot played in team mode, you are still able to click in and see how each student responded to every question in the Kahoot because each student is still answering every single question. So you can assess students in the exact same way you would if you were playing in our classic mode where students are competing individually. But during the game experience itself, you've created a team-based learning environment, a kind of a more team-based competitive environment as well. So that is one of my favorite features within Kahoot, and we released it within this past year. So it is still a newer feature within Kahoot. Maybe you haven't discovered it yet or you haven't tried it out yet, but if you haven't, I do highly recommend it. It is best used if you do have a semi larger audience. So make sure that you kind of have a large enough group to play team mode with, but it is a super awesome feature. And again, it is available both in the free and our paid versions of Kahoot as well. So if you are tuning in, this is a Kahoot Ask Us Anything session. So my name is Sydney. I'm joining from Austin, Texas, and I am a member of the Kahoot team. I've been here for almost 2 years now. And really, the session is for you to ask us any question that you have. I am not able to share my screen. I'm not able to present really on anything other than just answering questions. So if you do have questions for Kahoot or for myself, then you can place those in the chat and I'm more than happy to answer them. So feel free to ask us anything in the chat. That is what this time is here for you to be able to ask us questions. We have a very comprehensive back to school program, which is linked a little bit higher in the chat if you do want to, take part in that. And then we also have events all throughout the year with our meetups, both in the fall and the spring. And then we also have our summit in the summer. And I do see a question in the chat. Thank you so much. So when it comes to reports, it's super important for the students to reflect on their learning. Absolutely. So in the reports of Cahoots played, it can give you so much insights, but it can also help the students as well to understand where they're at with the content that they might be assessed on a little bit more formally down the road. So you can provide Cahoots as a study source. You can use it to assess and then use it to group students as well. Again, I'm a really big advocate for our assign feature. And so assigning Cahoots allows you to, give a Kahoot to students that they can go through a couple of different times if they do want to. And then if you do share the reporting with students and review it with them, maybe pull them over to your computer and say, let's look at your results. Let's talk about something that maybe is not coming so easily. How can we work on that? Our reports give you all that information to help you work with that student even better. So that's a really great point made in the chat. And again, if you don't look at Kahoot reports, start looking at Kahoot reports. There's a lot of great information you can get in there, such as the questions that students did not do so well with. And we actually make it as easy as possible for you. So if there are 3 questions that the majority of the players did not do so well with, then you are able or prompted to actually create a Kahoot out with those difficult questions. So if you host the Kahoot live in class, you look at the report and say, okay, these 5 questions they didn't do so great in. Let me create a Kahoot out of those 5 difficult questions. Maybe you assign that Kahoot and send that link home with the students for them to complete as homework before the next time they come to class. So you can use the same content and deliver it in different ways depending on how you're wanting the students to engage with it. With that assign option that they can take home. Another option is just to create that Kahoot out of the difficult questions and maybe host it the next time you come together as a class as a way to review and see if they can retrieve what was then revealed as the correct answer. And so they should know the correct answer, after seeing it maybe once. So you could also do that as well. Another great feature within our reports is that not only do you get the players side of things, so you can actually tap into each player and see how they responded to every question in the Kahoot, but you can also go into the questions. So you can go into the questions themselves and see how every player responded to that question. So such as our feature focus of the week poll, that is something that you can review in the report and see how students responded to the poll so you can reflect on that feedback that they've given to you in the poll that you used in your Kahoot. But you can do that with any of our question types. Another thing that is available to you is if you're used to hosting Kahoots live, then you're used to seeing that podium at the end where, a student is in first, second, third, fourth, fifth place. But in the report of the Kahoot played, you do get a accuracy-based column. So the points is generated through speed and accuracy. But if you only want to have a look at accuracy and potentially even place that information elsewhere, that is a separate column in the report. So again, if you don't look at reports, highly recommend it because we do still report on accuracy during a Kahoot, whether it's a live Kahoot, an assigned Kahoot, we have that accuracy column. Yes, and some excitement in the chat. Thank you again for joining and for engaging with us in the chat. Again, that's what this session is for. I am actually unable to share my screen, so there's nothing for me to show you. But thank you for listening to me talking about Kahoot and the various features that we do have. And thank you for engaging with us in the chat. We do have about 10 minutes left. So again, this is an Ask Us Anything session. So any question that you have for myself as a member of the Kahoot team, feel free to ask those in the chat. We are doing this weekly, at least for a short while. So feel free to tune in and pop in and ask us a question live and get it answered live as well. And before checking in on the chat, I was speaking to some of our other events. So we will have a fall meetup, which is a very large live event. It typically happens over a series of hours where other members of the Kahoot team present out about what's new at Kahoot, what's coming for Kahoot, what are some opportunities that you can seize for yourself as an educator. Then you also get to hear from other educators who are using Kahoot effectively in their classroom. Hello. So those are really great events to attend. You also get professional development certificates for attending those, and a bunch of us, including me, are all in the chat answering your questions there as well. So there are other opportunities for you to ask members of the Kahoot team questions live, and that is one of them. And yes, the date for that will be September 21st. The registration page isn't out yet. It is coming soon, but September 21st will be that date for our fall EDU meetup, where there will be a lot of exciting things to talk about and a lot of exciting things to learn about as well. So we have our fall meetup, and then we typically have a spring meetup as well. These are all virtual events, so you can join from anywhere, where you can join a live event through Zoom and or YouTube. And then we also have our big summit in the summer as well. That's typically when we announce what's coming for the back to school season. And that is also typically a 2-day event. So a lot to learn, a lot of opportunities to engage with us, and recordings of our past events are available in our YouTube channel. So feel free to check out some past sessions if you do want to continue your learning with Kahoot. But again, also too, we have our back to school programming with sessions like this with our Ask Us Anything. We also do have our feature focuses on Thursdays, where you're actually able to play a Kahoot. And this week's is all about poll. So you can join us then. There are also live webinars that are going on right now as well. If you are wanting to learn a little bit more about using Kahoot and Kahoot EDU specifically, I am hosting a few webinars throughout this back to school season. So a lot of opportunities to engage with us. And again, we do appreciate you for tuning in to chat with us, or to, I guess, listen to me talk about Kahoot. But again, if you do have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. We have about 7 minutes left, and so feel free to ask any questions that you do have in the chat. And yes, to everyone saying hi, hello. Thank you so much for being here. We do appreciate you tuning in to learn a little bit more about Kahoot during this Ask Us Anything session. Again, feel free to ask questions. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to answer your questions. So yes, hello. And I know that we have users from all around the world tuning in. So thank you. Again, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you're joining us from. It's about midday for me, so I might be having some lunch after this. But thank you for tuning in and joining us. There's a lot of great resources that have been put in the chat, such as our back to school page, where there is so much good information. We at Kahoot have released a lot of features over the past few years, a lot in answer to the changes to education during the pandemic. And so we're really trying to remind users about a lot of these features that we have created for you to use. So we've had past feature focuses on word cloud. We've had past feature focuses on slides. We had past feature focus on single screen. If you don't know single screen, check it out. It's a setting in our live Kahoots. So whenever you go to start a live Kahoot, you can access your settings in the top left corner. It looks like a little slider. And you can make it so that your students see both the questions and the answers on their device. So rather than the students needing to be able to see your screen that's projected, you can actually create a single screen experience for your students, which makes it more accessible. It's also really great if you are hosting Cahoots through video conferencing. So those are some of the past feature focuses we've done, and we're not done yet. This week is poll, and in the next coming weeks, we have other features that are already available to you that we are also talking about. And we're also sharing how educators are using them as well. We love Kahoot and we use Kahoot internally here, but our educators are really our pros. And so we want you to be able to get insight from other educators and other peers on how to use some of our great features. I learn so much whenever I speak to educators and how they're using Kahoot as well. And a lot of that I just end up sharing with others. And so that's how we learn. Kahoot is a creative platform at the end of the day. It can be as much of a blank slate as you want it to be if you just open our creator and start creating. So it's good to share out, ways that you are using Kahoot with others, because it just benefits everyone to share, best practices and how you're using certain features. I appreciate all the thumbs up and the claps in the chat. Thank you again. I appreciate you spending this time with us. We have about about 3 minutes left. So again, my name is Sydney. I'm a member of the Kahoot team, been at Kahoot for almost 2 years, based in Austin, Texas, even though Kahoot is headquartered over in Norway. There's a few of us here in the US, serving largely our US-based educators. But from wherever you are in the world, thank you so much for joining and being with us today, and tuning into this live. These live YouTube lives on Mondays are Ask Us Anything sessions. So again, feel free to tune in if you do have questions for us. Yes, and it looks like you've learned a bit about reports as well. If you've tapped into a report, all it takes is just opening up a report, reviewing it for a couple minutes, and you'll already see that there's a lot of great features within our reports for you to use. And a report is generated after every single Kahoot is played. Even assigned Kahoots, what's even cooler about assigned Kahoots is when you create an assigned Kahoot, you essentially create a live report. So you could be physically in the classroom with students, and you might not have the capacity that day, because that might be the case, to host a live Kahoot. So rather, you could actually administer the Kahoot that you want to host with students through an assignment, and you could have that live report up on your screen. You're not sharing your screen. The students are just going through the Kahoot on their own devices, and you can see students starting to engage with the Kahoot and see that report populate. So that is a really cool feature within assigned Kahoots. So both live Kahoots and assigned Kahoots create a report automatically. So you can look into that. Again, any Kahoot that you've hosted previously, there is a report for. So check out that feature within Kahoot. So we are coming towards the end of this session. But again, any last minute questions that you have, I'm more than happy to answer. We have some great features coming soon. Probably, arguably, maybe our most exciting feature will be our new game modes. So there will be a new way to play. So we talked about our live version and our assigned version, but there will be a live version where you can play a Kahoot through one of our game modes, just further gamifying and making it just more exciting for students to engage with the content that you're wanting them to review, you're wanting them to learn. Some of them are team-based. Some of them are, as a class-based, or every single player is trying to reach the same objective. And one of them are individual. And my cat joined. So we are excited about game modes that is coming very soon. And maybe we'll have more questions about that later on. And those will be available for free. I know that's always a big question about game modes. They will be available for free. Alrighty, so we have come to the end of this Ask Us Anything session. I want to thank you all again. For anyone who tuned in, even just for a moment. You might not be here right now, but for anyone who tuned in, thank you so much for joining and being here with us today. We so appreciate you using Kahoot and loving Kahoot. And we wish you luck during this kind of back to school season if that is relevant for you. Otherwise, feel free to tune into our other programs, whether that's our YouTube lives, our webinars, our live events. This is my cat, and I'm going to sign off. So thank you again. Appreciate you and hope to see you at another Ask Us Anything next week. Bye.